We're going to go ahead and put this brace on Bob. I'm going to do it in the seated posture and just run through the whole situation so you can see it, relatively quickly how the body changes. Okay, Bob. So we'll get this around you here. Okay, can you hold that back piece just for me for a second? If you notice, it's kind of just a habit now. That strap is reflected back onto itself, okay? That way I don't have to worry about it getting in the way necessarily. So here we go. Okay, you don't have to get it perfect at first, you just got to get it going. So that's all we're going to do. Earlier in the video we did mark on our straps, but that was when the chafes, I believe, were in a different spot, and it was also a TLSO at that point. Actually, let's have you sit down here. Before I make it too tight on him, we got to allow his body to change. Okay, so we just want it to be generally snug on you, okay? So you just got to let me know how you're feeling in there.
This one here.
Yeah. So we are now in our seated posture, okay? One of the things you have to think about is, does that feel snug for you, Bob, in general, or no? Okay. So in this aspect, we feel snug, according to the patient. One of the things you got to consider is, if that patient has a compression fracture, for an example, what are we doing when we sit that person up? Okay, we've already seen that the person shrinks in height when they sit via our measurements. So what is our approach then if we're sitting the patient up to put the brace on? It's just something to think about. I would argue that if we had the person laying down, they'll be in their most extension that they can comfortably get to, and then you should at least start with the brace there. If they can't tolerate it, okay, but at least you tried to get to it in the most extension you could. But right now Bob is saying that the brace is snug on him, okay, right? We can't really get any finger in there, meaning that there's no really space in this aspect. Okay, Bob, let's have you stand up here now. Okay, now it doesn't look like a whole bunch changed, okay? But I can put my hand in here now like this, okay? So that means something had to have changed even in a little bit. So if you think about it, if Bob goes from what feels snug in a seated posture, okay, and then he stands up, in that moment where he's standing up, the brace got loose. So what does that mean? I guess this is rhetorical. To you, what does that mean to the audience when he's going from snug to not snug for his fracture, for example? Might not be the best case scenario. So from here, and I'm just going to mark our straps. I'm going to mark our straps just as a point of reference. Actually, we'll have you, this is where the straps were. We haven't changed anything yet in terms of tightness. This is where they were when Bob was sitting down. The brace does not look like it's loose, maybe at a glance, but just right here I can already put my whole hand in there. And I could even start to turn my fingers sideways a little bit. Okay, so we're just going to show this now. We're going to tighten up our brace. So the best case scenario if this happens is to tighten up the brace when the patient stands. Okay, you can already see the difference of what that means right there. Okay, so we're going to do this on this other side. And the other thing I wanted to just reinforce is holding on to the back piece and pulling like this on your strap and the back piece will help you to tighten up the brace. You can bottom out if you think you're just gonna pull on this and it's gonna be as snug as it needs to be. You know, you might be shocked at holding onto the back piece now and pulling at the same time, okay? Like pulling the two pieces together. Okay. Again, I can still even put my hand in here for Bob. So we're going to fix this first of all. Okay, does that feel more snug for you, I hope?
Definitely.
Definitely. Okay, so let's just measure what that means, just in terms of our straps. So let's just measure what that means in terms of our straps. I couldn't see this line before, so that's not going to be something that I'm going to include. But this one we were able to make 1 3/4 inches just on one strap more tight. This one up here, we were able to make 1 3/4 inches more snug. On the other side, almost 1 inch, we'll say 7/8, and 1 inch right there. So now we're going to go from that position. So we did snug it up, so at least we can say that we're trying to, you know, support the spine as much as we can. Now we're going to go to laying down and see how, if anything changes, we'll just approach it as maybe it will, maybe it won't. So we'll do that, and we'll just see how it goes. Okay, Bob, do you need help getting down there, or are you okay? Okay, so here's Bob. He just laid down with the brace on, okay? We haven't changed our straps, where they were located at and what tightness it was at before, okay? So now we're gonna do this again. So again, you can see, even in the laying down posture, I can put my hand in like this, as if we put the brace on loose before, but we didn't. It was just that the body changed. So we're gonna do it again. So I'm going to pull with my left hand, pull the piece where I want it, and it's almost as if you're using the other strap as just a keeper. So there we go. Look at that difference right there. So from a standing posture to a laying down posture, that's shocking me right now. So that's crazy. So 3 1/4 inches right there. Okay, that's just one strap. If that's too snug, let me know. Okay. So that one is now, I believe on the top straps, we just had 1 inch difference before, so now we're at 2 1/4. We'll do the same thing on the other side. It might be a little harder for the camera to catch all this, but let's see if we can't get anything out of this other side. So this was our marker when he was sitting down. Please disregard this. This is a previous marker. Here's our third. We'll just put a dot now, okay? So that's us laying down. Okay, so we tightened up this one laying down, this one, this other one up here. Okay, and we'll do our last one. So I'm not just going to pull on the strap, I'm going to use my hand on the side to pull the pieces together and then use the strap at the same time. I'm trying to like pull like this across itself. So here we go. All right, so now you can see our point. So if someone marked the straps for you or the patient, well, that's great. The intention is great. But we have to ask the question, when were the straps marked, okay? Because if they were marked when Bob was sitting down, you might think that's appropriate. But if it was marked when he was supine, then you would think that's more appropriate. So just to keep in mind, markers are good, but everybody has to be on the same page in terms of the point of reference for the patient. You know, if I pulled to here for Bob and laying down, it would be so obvious that there was gaps in there that there'd be almost an alarm going off in your head. So just note that there can be a difference, that's all. Okay, so let's just measure that one too. So our measurement difference there is 2 1/4, for example. This is 2 1/4-ish, 2 3/8. 3 1/4. This one's a little less. I guess we're not 100%. What did we say that was? Yeah, 3 1/4. That one's about 2 3/8. So we could have been a little bit more symmetrical there. But the point is that it changed. Okay, so we just sat Bob up. He was just had the brace applied in the supine position. I want Bob to give his point of view on the way he feels in that brace. Is it too tight now that he's sitting? Because we just showed there was a big difference in what was appropriate before, what you said was snug, and what you feel now. Do you feel like this is too snug on you, or what?
Now, what I feel more support right in through here. Up on top here doesn't seem too much different from standing or laying down.
Yeah, okay.
But right in here, I can feel like more snugness and more support, especially across.
Now, is it too much? Like, did we push you too far by doing it laying down, or are you okay in there?
Well,
from a comfort point of view,
it's not affecting my breathing or anything.
Okay.
And you want to limit my motion, right?
Right. Yeah, that's the whole point. Motion control.
But let me just stand up from here and see. Yeah, I can again feel a difference right in here from when I was standing before.
Okay.
It's tighter now than when I was standing.
Okay.
And of course, when I got up from the seated position, and stood up initially, I could feel this whole thing just kind of sag down.
Okay,
in fact,
you could.
Where this hip ridge is,
yeah,
I could feel that slide
down.
Down, yeah. Okay. So, but now it doesn't slide downward.
Okay.
And if the whole idea is to keep me from in this area, then that's doing the trick.
So we want motion control. We don't want the fracture to do whatever it wants. So we want to, hug the skeleton as much as we can. So in that way, I would argue that if a person lays down to put their brace on, you could start there at the very least. If they can't handle the snugness, which very rarely do I at least have a problem with that, I would say that's potentially your best way to go, okay? That's, you're treating the fracture in its most extended position, person at least in their most extended position, and you can make it more snug. And he's not complaining of discomfort.
No, and I can feel this resting on the top of my hips.
Okay.
I can actually feel it.
Oh, you can feel it there.
Yeah.
Okay. I wanted to just review with you quickly straps in a little bit more detail. Straps matter since we're learning about these TLSO braces in more detail. So when we have the straps, and we talked about the chafes earlier, we talked about these are called butterfly chafes, and the benefit to that, in our opinion, is the patient can just look straight down and do their strap, come back, and they're not searching around for a chafe, for example. And that matters if somebody has a burst fracture, for example. You don't want them twisting to find a chafe over here necessarily. At least that's the way that we treat these kind of fractures. So these are called butterfly chafes right down the anterior midline. This is an option that you can ask your orthotist to include in your braces if you'd like. So that's the chafe aspect of this. Now, I also wanted to talk about straps in a little bit more detail. Now, earlier in the video, we talked about how a strap should be reflected back onto itself when you're not using the brace. So what that means is, and why would someone even start talking about straps to that degree? And we'll show you why, okay? Just for example, we won't measure this strap, but you can see how long the strap is. It has to attach from the posterior aspect of this TLSO, and it has to go on to the anterior aspect of the TLSO. So they can't be short straps. So that's a benefit to a patient in a sense, but it's also a detraction since the strap is so long, we'll just do 2 straps undone for a second, and I'll show you what I mean. They can wrap around each other, and this is just a problem that you don't want, okay? And just imagine this is only 2 of the straps. There's 4 more to go. We could get a real knot here if we wanted to. So the only point is just trying to help you, if you can remember, to reflect the strap back onto itself when you're not using them.